Now I'm bringing you the first panel of this morning at this lovely arena stage. And we have 4 panelists, very special ones. The panel is entitled Why Hardware is Hard, and they are coming to give us 4 different points of views, because from their experience, we have an investor, an accelerator, a utility company, and a startup. But before I introduce you to them, let me introduce our top moderator, who is the founder and CEO of the global innovation consultancy, Opino. He is, of course, Pedro Morneo. Welcome, Pedro. Come on. He's taking the first chair close to me here. Thank you, Pedro. And now, you welcome your guests, and I'll tell the names, okay? The first one of them, as I said, we have an investor, and he is an aeronautical engineer turned investor and specialized in high-tech projects. He's the founding partner at Bullnell Capital and a good friend of South Summit as well, Javier Ulecia. Welcome, Javier. Thank you. Our second guest is a lovely lady coming from Denmark. I'm going to try to pronounce her name correctly, but bear with me. She told me that not even in Denmark they can pronounce her name. So she is coming from Copenhagen, an expert in the European startup ecosystem, and she is the head of incubator, hardware, and technology at the Science Park of the Technical University of Denmark. She is the lovely Lone Gamelgaard. Welcome, Lone. The third guest is a creative mind, an innovative thinker with the ability to turn ideas into actions and results. He is the brand new head of Enel Innovation Iberia, no other than Juan Garrigosa. Welcome. Hello, Juan. And finally, I said we had a startup, of course, and it's a top one, represented by an industrial engineer who has dedicated his life to the electric vehicle charging market. He is the CEO at Wallbox, and his name, Enric Asuncion. Welcome, Enric. Thank you, everybody. All yours, Pedro.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I think this is a very interesting subject. It says 20 minutes here, so we need to be pretty fast, and there's a lot of people on stage. So, a lot of people talk about startups, and when it gets to hardware, people tend to be more silent because it gets more complicated to put products in the market. So we have an investor, an accelerator, a corporation, and a startup, and I just want to get to the point. Why do you think hardware is hard, and what are the main challenges that you are encountering from the different perspectives that you represent? Javier.
Well, I mean, when you compare software companies in the digital space with companies that needs to develop physical stuff, there are so many differences in all the value chain that makes that developing and investing in companies of this profile is much harder, much difficult. I mean, you need to have, normally in the hardware space, you need to have talented, skilled, very high skilled people, but also multidisciplinary because you have many things in a device. You need to have a physical inventory. You need to manufacture things. I mean, when you do prototypes, you make mistakes. You have to come back to the square one. You have to distribute physical things. You have to maintenance and support. You have to do a lot of testing. And when you do that, your product is already obsolete, and you have to start again. So I mean, it's so very capital intensive, lower margins than software. So I mean, I think you have to be a brave entrepreneur to start a company in hardware, and a brave investor as well. Huh?
Your pick.
Yeah, I can add to that and totally agree. I think there is another aspect that going into industry sales, or at least making agreements for pilot testing, it's very complex. A lot of the business startups I work with are very good at going into dialogue with all sorts of industries, different decision makers, finding their pathway through the entire organizations that they want to do pilot businesses with. However, for sometimes some of the technical startups in the hardware area, it's really difficult to find out how to get into the companies, to the corporates, make agreements, who decides, who are the technical advisors or deciders, who are the economic deciders, and so on, so on. So I totally agree with you, and to add on that, I think the complexity in the industry, if you go for business to business, prototyping, testing, and finally sales, it's very complex.
Thank you. Juan.
Yes, I don't know, probably summarizing, no? When hardware is not alone, goes always with software. So if you want to deploy whatever disruptive technology with software, you need your knowledge and you need time to write the code. But with hardware, it's much more difficult, so the skill are even much more difficult. So that would be the first part, no? The skill. The second probably would be the investment that you need for the so-called irons. You need invest much more than an internet connection and your time. And probably the third, as you were saying, is that you need sometimes certified infrastructure to test this, to do this proof of concept, no? To try this minimum viable product. And it's not, I don't know, if you are trying to deploy whatever thing ready with, I don't know, a medium voltage technology, not all of us has a medium voltage laboratory certified when you can try this kind of technologies. So that would be the third great difficulty, and of course the sales. So.
Thank you.
So I agree with all what you say. It's exponential, everything. You need not double the team, like 10 times the team than a software. When it's just at the beginning, you need engineering, you need manufacturing, you need quality, you need certification team, you need development. And at the end, usually when we do software, a lot of the time that you spend in development, and then you go to the market. When you do hardware, in our case at least, is 10% development, and then starts the hard part, which is prototype testing, certification of the manufacturing line, certification of the product, test, and then manufacturing line. So 90% of the time is not developing, as you said. So you have to be very fast, and you need a lot of money to start and to go to the market. Yeah, it's iteration all the time.
To have something certified.
Yeah.
So in the last few years, we've seen that this industry is starting to pick up a lot of pace, a lot more funds, a lot more investors, a lot more entrepreneurs as well, and a lot of corporations and accelerators are turning their eyes on hardware. I don't know if it's becoming cheaper to prototype, faster to prototype, the ecosystem is becoming more connected. So I want to get your optimistic opinion on what is getting better and what you are doing to make it better. Javier.
Well, I mean, we invest only in Spain, so I talk about our experience here. We have very good engineers in Spain, and there are not so many companies where they can work and have a challenging technical job. So entrepreneurship is one of the alternatives, and so you can have very good teams, very motivated, with not so many opportunities, so very loyal to the projects, and cost effective, because the salaries compared to where you have in other countries are a fraction. So a good engineer here costs 1/3 or 1/4 of what you can find in the US or you can find in Israel or the UK. So there is an opportunity to really create good companies because the talent is there, is not very expensive. We have, I think that we have more and more help from the public entities, so soft loans, subsidies for R&D at the national level or even at the European level. And I think that what lacks is the investments from private money. It's much more difficult to explain a laser based on fiber optics to a potential investor than an application for your day-to-day that, I mean, even
you feel lonely as a fund.
I feel very lonely, yeah, of course. That's an opportunity because all the projects that we see, we can spend time with them, and the negotiation is, I mean, more on our side than in their side. But you need to really care that you are not going to be able to convince other investors so easily for the future rounds. And this is very capital intensive, as I said.
And have you seen time to market reduce or the size of the investment rounds reduce?
No, my time to market, it depends on the device. So I mean, but I don't think that there are many things that are doing that you can go to the market or finish your design and manufacturing faster than in the past. No, I don't see that.
Lorna.
I think from the positive perspective, I think there are some mega trends that are really driving towards hardware. So if you, for example, have some programs like clean water for everybody or renewable energies, you cannot do that without any sort of physical interface. So you cannot do that only with digitalization. So that is one of the, you could say, positive drivers in the market. And I think that some of the new technologies that are not that new anymore, but 3D printing, laser cutting makes it very tangible, very fast to do prototyping, iterations, and that is definitely a help to many of the startups. So, and the increasing awareness that entrepreneurs and startups are going to create the industries of tomorrow. So I think that's going to be some of the positive drivers.
Have you seen any, like the profile of the companies you work with change over time? Because I see a lot more, for example, a lot more corporates investing in companies very early stage, even before they get into an acceleration program.
Yeah, I think there has always been this, there are many ways to categorize startups within hardware. So you can do the business to consumer side and the business to business side. And if you do that way, I think it's the business to consumer hardware haven't changed that much, actually. But from the business to business side, I think there is this corporate startup collaboration is really, really valuable, increasing awareness that is the way to go. The corporates have a different kind of, patience, a different kind of insights to what it takes to develop new technologies and apply them in real life and making businesses out of it. So yeah, I think that's a positive value driver.
That's great ground for Juan, because I think one of the most interesting things we've seen over the last few years is that corporations are not just now talking about it, but they're investing and putting resources into companies.
Yes, in line with Lon's comment, this change of attitude, I think is the positive thing. In the old times, the corporation would only install or deploy devices done by very well-tested devices, by the very well-known manufacturers. And since last years ago, we are trying, betting for startups and integrating their products and services. But our model is open power, that means open innovation. We have more than 80, we are working with more than 80 startups integrating their technology, and we are selling their products or services, or even using their technology for internal services. So this change of attitude is quite, it's a great opportunity for them, of course.
Juan, given that you changed positions yesterday or when, could you tell us a little bit more about what's coming in NL?
In the NL Group. Well, probably you know the NL Group. We are present in more than 30 countries. We have more than 60 million of customers. We had the global business line for generation, the complete energy value chain, generation, distribution, renewables. And in market, what we have done is to create a new global business line for all the new products and services. So we are focused on all have to do with electric mobility, with smart home, with cities, smart cities, and with industries, the Industry 2.0. And we are working very hard because we realized some years ago that it's not enough for our utility just to provide light or gas. We have to reinvent, because the energy sector is reinventing. There is a revolution, and we want to lead this revolution.
Mister, in 2 years, you've gone from a business plan to being the first in market share in Spain. Tell us about your trip. And
I think that it's really going faster and faster and faster. They're going to the market for new products in hardware. And the automotive market is pushing for that because the cars are going faster to the market, and same for cell phones, same for computers. We are see that we are going faster, and this is because in our case we are doing electronics and high technology product. Now we have a product we are releasing next week that has face recognition and gesture recognition, and we are able to do this in 4 months and certify and testing. It's thanks to all the tools that are available. We have 3D printers, of course. We have automatic testing devices that have automatic testing procedures that have been developed in the last years. We have processes to manufacturing plastic parts and molds at the first time and in few hours. I mean, we can make a mold for a plastic in 10 days, which is amazing nowadays, because you test your product with a 3D printer, and then you go direct to the piece, and you are able to test a lot of things before going to production, and you can almost do it in one shot, because you can go very fast nowadays, and we see this, that if you have the right team and the right tools and the right suppliers and the right customers that support you, you can go fast and you can be a success. You need everything, of course.
But how did you build a business plan, recruit the team, prototype the technology, certify it, and get ready to ship in 1 year? In hardware, how did you do that?
Well, the first year, I will say I lost my girlfriend, and same happened with many people of our team. They lost boyfriends also. I mean, working a lot, and being super focused. And we always have a say, what if, why not? What if we do this? And then somebody says, why not? And if you have this mindset that why not doing it, why nobody, even if it's not done, you can do it, and you can do it faster. And if you are focused and you have a clear roadmap, you can go fast. And this is what we did. Just asking 2 questions: what if, why not?
Okay, we have 5 more minutes. I have probably time for 1 question. So I'd like to finish with what you think are the main challenges that we still need to solve in order to be able to have a successful growth in this kind of industry.
Well, I think that
from your perspective. So
yeah, from my perspective as an investor, is access to capital. So I think that, and this happening in many countries. You need support from public money to create success stories that will attract private money to the sector. And today there are not many investors investing in hardware, so it's very difficult to create success stories because there are not so many access to capital. So I think that the support of the R&D and the support of companies that have a certain profile with a lot of intellectual property that at the end are going to create jobs of certain quality should be supported by the government much more than it is today, and by the European community. There is a lot of initiatives, but they should keep going on doing that.
Are you experiencing that there is more and more syndicated investments from different funds and companies at the same time? Is that more frequent?
I mean, co-investment is something very typical in venture capital. The problem is that there are not so many investors willing to invest in this type of projects.
And what do you think about the role of private, family-owned businesses in the industry? Is that a significant contribution besides money? Can they add value to these
companies investing in early
family-owned businesses, industrial businesses that we have a lot in Europe, Germany, and many other countries? Are they approaching you more frequently? Are they more interested in investing in startups?
Well, I mean, if they are doing it more and more. I mean, Enel is an example of a big company doing a lot of things for startups, but you have in Spain, for example, in the automotive industry, you have companies that are big companies right now, and we have contacts with them, with companies of our portfolio, because they are interested in having an interest on them. So,
I think it's interesting, the family-owned businesses. I think a lot of them will be really smart partners for the startups, opening their doors, validating the business. They have an agility which is amazing sometimes. and they may be very good funding syndicating partners as well. So I think the family business is an interesting perspective.
There's
And
a very interesting case study in Germany. Family-owned businesses started talking to each other to try to start investing or testing out technologies like these, that they were not big enough to prototype on their own. And they ended up building a $600 million fund.
Yeah. So.
Sorry, I cut you.
Yeah, and without being an expert in venture capital, I think the investment profile of hardware startups is a bit different than software startups, so maybe there is a need for different investment models. So maybe new capital funds, I don't know, it's easy to say we just need a lot of money, but I think you have to work around it and see, are there any smart ways we can do it? And we need a lot of good hardware cases, use cases, you could say. So it becomes more attractive and it becomes less dangerous, less risky. So.
Juan?
In our case, we propose you a tailor-made approach. That means that we'll reach an agreement with you depending on your demands, but offering the support of the expert that we have in the company and also the infrastructure that we are saying before, just to do this first proof of concept that open the market, in our case, to these 30 countries where we are present. So it's quite interesting to have a partner like Enel just to finalize the development and to go very, very fast to the market.
So in our case is we need more support, of course, from the governments to support new companies, hardware companies, because the requirements in terms of investment is very big. Same as you commented, special funding and ways of funding this kind of startups. But for us, what has been key has been having the support of companies like Enel, where as you say, at the end of the process, when you have the product and you are going to manufacturing, you need to prove that there's interest in this product and somebody is willing to buy it and it's better. So you need the big corporation that trust in the product and they test it and see if they can support you. So if big corporations are willing to support these new startups as customers or as investors, can be many ways. This is very, very, very positive to help new startups to start, new hardware startups.
Are you raising any money at the moment?
We raise money in May. Next year, I think if goes very well, first quarter. If goes super well, end of this year, but yeah, beginning of next year probably. Yeah.
Okay.
The problem is with this kind of hardware startups, when better goes, more money you need, because you need to buy supplies, you need to increase the manufacturing capacity, you need to release new products, more development, so it's more money.
Okay. Well, guys, time's up. Only 20 minutes. Thank you all so much. And if you want to talk to these very interesting people, they will be backstage. Thanks.
Thank you.